Today's conversation and question of the day is going to be a little bit controversial. We are talking about who should not buy a home. So, a lot of people just go into it a little bit blind about, oh, everybody should buy a home because that is how you build wealth. And yes, that is. But it may not be the right time for you if, for instance, you have a high to debt income ratio. You want to make sure you're going to pay down some of those debts to keep you from one, being poor, and two, you'll be able to increase the amount of home that you can afford. The second thing is if you have insufficient funds, meaning you have only 3.5% for the down payment, but you don't consider having funds for closing costs and emergency fund. I highly, highly, highly recommend my buyers to have an emergency fund when they are closing, just in case anything were to happen after the closing. It's kind of like an insurance policy, right? You want to make sure that you're not going to be, using credit cards if something were to pop up. So high debt to income ratio, insufficient down payment, and low credit score, which you need a minimum of 580 to get a mortgage, but you don't want to have a 580. So if you have credit issues, it's something that you should work on and be able to fix before buying a home. And we can definitely put a plan in place to get you there with the right lender in terms of what your credit score looks like, what your goal to buy is, and what your time frame is, and all of that. So there are plans in place to fix those things, but if that's where you are right now, I would say do not buy a house. And then the last thing is your occupation. If you're in an occupation or an industry where you're going to be traveling a lot, like traveling nurse, or if you're in the trucking industry, or maybe in tech where you're moving, reconsider buying unless you're going to keep it and rent it out. But for the most part, if you're just going to be buying it as a primary residence, then you may want to reconsider if you're only going to be there for, let's say, 1 to 3 years. You really want to make sure you're going to own a home for 3 years minimum or 3 years plus. So those are who are the people who I don't think should be buying a house right now. Again, there are many other reasons, but those are the primary reasons in my mind. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Happy to help.